Wasim, there's been an awful lot of talk recently about Russian engagement on the ground in Syria. What do we know about that so far?
We know a bit more. We've talked about it here at France 24 around 2 weeks ago. But we should remember, first of all, that Russia has interest in Syria since 1971, since the era of the Soviet Union, and that Russia is still behind the Syrian regime since day one, by arming him, by training his pilot, by training his army. But today it's more visible because Russians are saying we are engaged on the ground in several positions. We are talking about the Tartus naval base, of course, but talking about an airport in Latakia, which is being updated by the Russians. We have in these pictures we see a Russian soldier speaking while the tank is going to fire, and then we saw pictures of planes, but we have satellites imagery also of planes, advanced planes like Sukhoi 30s, which aren't in service with the Syrian forces. We have also Sukhoi 25, which are tactical planes aimed to hit troops on the ground. And we know that Russian troops are engaged in combat in Latakia, and people are talking about a unit engaged in Zabadani, so and at the frontier with Lebanon. So this engagement today is much visible, but we should remember that Russia didn't change anything in its engagement behind the Syrian regime, either in fighting the rebels or in fighting today the Islamic State and other jihadi groups.
The US, on the other hand, has been betting more on boosting moderate Syrian rebel groups, but that strategy hasn't been paying off, has it?
It's not been paying off, and it's failing, and that's what the head of the Central Command said before the Senate a few days ago. Before the Americans wanted to arm moderate rebels, they started to arming small groups which were overtaken by the Nusra Front. In July, they armed a few people and they trained them in Turkey, and they sent them. They were 54. They got straight away attacked by Al-Qaeda, and they were disarmed. And Friday they sent another group of 75 fighters, and once they entered Syrian soil, they gave up their arms and their ammunition to Al-Qaeda, to Nusra Front in Syria. And the head of the group said that he doesn't want to fight the jihadis, but he wants to fight Assad. And the head of the CENTCOM said something very important, because we have to remember that the aim was more than 15,000 fighters. Trained by the US. Then we went down to 5,400, then to 100, and today the head of the CENTCOM said there is about 4 or 5 active fighters of this group on Syrian soil.
4 or 5, right? Okay, so that strategy, as you say, clearly not paying off. Thank you very much indeed, Wasim Nasser, our jihadist group expert here on France 24.